Precigen is currently trading at $4.08, and so right now they're in a transitionary period and are actually generating revenue right now. The US approval of PAPZIMEOS, which is the first and only approved treatment for adults that suffer with RRP, has so far generated $3.4 million in net product revenue in the fourth quarter of 2025. And so what's really important to note is that this is just a partial quarter. It's not the full run rate just yet. You know, they're still very much early in this commercialization story, if you like. We can see here that the sales force was only deployed in September. Right here it states with full deployment of PAPZIMEOS field team in September 2025. It's important to note that with these sales results, you know, the 3.4 million in net product revenue in this fourth quarter of 2025, that payer coverage had only recently kicked in, and that reimbursement systems with insurance companies, for example, were still being set up at that stage. Private health plan coverage is now estimated at approximately 215 million US lives, including the significant majority of leading insurers, with PAPZIMEOS also covered under Medicare and Medicaid. And so I expect that it's going to be Q1 and Q2 2026 where we're going to see a real sales ramp up. But like I was saying earlier, you know, they're still in this process of building this structure, the sales infrastructure, which includes partnerships with insurers. And it's into this Q2 of 2026 where we're going to see the first real proof of whether PAPZIMEOS is truly scaling commercially. And so it's worth noting that we may not see these sales results until August of 2026. But right now, the demand signals for PAPZIMEOS are very strong. The PAPZIMEOS patient hub enrollment has surpassed 300 registered patients. And so this patient hub is essentially a pipeline of customers, of patients who have enrolled to receive the PAPZIMEOS treatment. And PAPZIMEOS is now being prescribed nationwide across both major medical centers and community practices too. And so one of the underrated catalysts, which they mention in the press release, is around these J-codes, which should be available as of the 1st of April. Essentially what these J-codes do is that they speed up the reimbursement process for a doctor. And with an innovative treatment like PAPZIMEOS, it speeds up the overall billing workflow. And it's often when a J-code is recently issued to a new treatment that we will see a sales spike. 16 leading physicians in the field of RRP recommended PAPZIMEOS as the new standard of care first-line treatment for adults with RRP in the US. And this is huge simply because what we've got here is we've got leading physicians, specialists in RRP recommending it as the first line treatment. And this is how a drug will potentially go from just an option to the default treatment in a community. Another significant breakthrough that they've recently announced is that the company initiated an open label study to evaluate safety and retreatment efficacy of PAPZIMEOS. And if the redosing works in this study, it opens up a recurring revenue opportunity for the PAPZIMEOS treatment, which over time could turn PAPZIMEOS from a one-off therapy into a recurring revenue model with much higher long-term value and opportunity for Precigen. And so the next step for Precigen right now is to enter the PAPZIMEOS treatment into Europe. Following submission in 2025, the marketing authorization application for PAPZIMEOS for the treatment of adults with RRP was validated by the European Medicines Agency and is under review. PAPZIMEOS was granted orphan drug designation by the European Commission, which signals that PAPZIMEOS is advancing towards a European approval. It's still in the regulatory stages right now, but European approval would open up the PAPZIMEOS treatment to a much wider patient population, again opening up revenue opportunities for Precigen. And so the orphan drug designation is again a significant opportunity for Precigen to capitalize on. This would give advantages to PAPZIMEOS, for example, market exclusivity in Europe, essentially shielding them from any potential competition. And so right now PAPZIMEOS is moving from a single US launch into a broader global rollout, starting with Europe right now. They have doctors recommending it as the standard of care for RRP, and they're exploring this potential repeat use opportunity too, which would open up this recurring revenue opportunity. And so Precigen is now shifting from approval stage to building a multi-region commercial business with the potential with this recurring revenue opportunity too. And it's why we've seen two analysts give a mean one-year price forecast of $9.50.